Welcome into the Sports Buffoons podcast. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls out there of the world? Welcome on into the Sports Buffoon Studios here. You got Mike Settle running it here, as well with Tanner Dawson and Jason JG. What's up, fellas?
What's up, everybody?
We're back up in the hizzle.
Back up in the hizzle again, only like 20 minutes later, because you guys just did an awesome NCAA bracket breakdown show, right?
It did last a little longer than I thought, but it was awesome, and it was fun.
I'm glad you got it out of your system, Tanner. I know that you get really happy and excited about these kind of things, so I'm glad you could get rid of it now, because we're talking about football today, we're talking about a little bit of baseball for a second, and a little bit of NBA, so, I'm glad you got that out of your system,
I
Tanner.
feel like we
we
made some quality picks, gave some quality gambling advice, so I hope you guys check that out on the other show.
Gambling advice. That's one of your favorite things to talk about, too. So that reminds me. That's like, so with gambling-wise for this weekend, is there any particular game I should be putting money on? Any kind of spread, you think? Or because I the reason I didn't partake in this NCAA show and Troy Grayson did was because I don't know a damn thing about NCAA. And I'm not going to lie to the people out there and lie to our fan base about NCAA if I don't know anything. So I'm here for the Chiefs and the nitty gritty.
I would say gambling wise, and I don't have the line in front of me. I'd be looking at that North Carolina game and that Providence game first and foremost.
Gotcha.
So I would say stay away from the spread. If you're going to do any gambling, look at the overs and the unders. Those are going to be the best plays out there. Now, it's just, of course, depending which games there. But there's a lot of teams that match up with a lot of overs, and there's a lot of teams that match up with a lot of unders with to kind of equal up. So kind of look at, if you're going to do that comparison, I wouldn't really go against the spread on anything. Money line's not going to get you much on a lot of these games, but look at the overs and the unders.
Ooh, get your Bovada game going, you guys. Get on there. Start making some bets.
That's what I'm going to be doing.
I like it. Guys, so exciting news today, by the way. Zach Greinke is now back with the Kansas City Royals. That is an awesome thing to hear. I was very surprised. I mean, I had this thing in the back of my mind when I saw him as a free agent, how cool it would be to have him back as a Royal. And they made it happen. It's a one-year deal for $13 million. And, guys, this is kind of crazy to think about, that how he's going to have like a bookend now to his career of starting with the Royals for so long, putting up a 2.16 ERA back in 2009, and then here he is at 38 coming back to town, and it's going to make watching the Royals excited whenever he's pitching, just because of I don't think this is a thing where, like, the Royals had brought back some old guys a couple years ago.
I was actually just going to ask that.
Bring back Sawyer, bring back
Wade Davis.
Bring back Wade Davis.
Like, I was just going to ask you guys,
It's,
like, is this what they're doing? It's just like, oh, hey, we got these guys back. Let's bring some more guys towards the end of their careers that was a Royal to be a Royal.
The difference is those guys are all washed up, and I don't think Greinke, even at 38, is washed up.
No,
I do not think he's washed up at all. And this is very sentimental to me because it feels like a lifetime ago when this guy was a rookie on the Royals. And like I said, he's got something left in the tank. I don't know how much, but this is very important to me, and I'm really looking forward to having him back on the Kansas City Royals.
Yeah, rookie year was 2004, you guys. And that does feel like a lifetime ago as a Royals fan, watching the team back then and watching him grow, and then watching some of his awkwardness as we got to grow into getting to know him as a person, too. And then watching his success, not only as a pitcher, but also hitting-wise, too. The guy was hitting home runs a lot playing for the National League. And so, obviously, that's no longer relevant. But, guys, I think that's awesome. So, anyways.
I'm excited for
more
it.
Thoughts about that?
I'm just excited for it. I think I'm more impressed that we went out and got somebody like Zach Greinke instead of going after, like you guys talked about, the lesser former Royal players and stuff like that.
I think he wanted to be here, though, is the thing.
Which is kind of weird because he was the one that wanted away.
Right.
We get his career. But hey,
he was
like
young,
okay
too, back then. And I think this was the thing where he came back and, he matured and all that. And was like, hey, I want to go back to where I began.
And we got Zach Greinke being a veteran, a 38-year-old veteran coming into play who's worked with multiple teams, multiple winning teams. Maybe he can teach some of these young guys, just something there, like a vet presence that we need on this squad. So it's going to be really nice to see that, hopefully with some of these young pitchers in there.
And opening day begins on April 7th, I believe. Do you guys see him potentially being the day one starter?
Yeah, I could see it.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, I could see it. I think the best thing about Greinke is, like, if he has a really good year, I mean, he's just going to be 1 year older. We could potentially bring him back for multiple years because pitchers can sometimes last a little bit longer than you think, even into their 40s.
Very rare.
It's hard to find the Randy Johnsons of the world, but every once in a while.
Nolan Ryans
who pitched to like 50, Every once in a while that could happen, I guess. But all right, guys, let's dig into our main topics of the day right here. Obviously, NFL free agency is going crazy right now. I need to get my phone out and put it on the table in case we get some do-do-do notifications, because we never know who's going to get signed next and when. And we did see today Von Miller getting a $120 million
what a deal!
Contract for 6 years. That'd be a hell of a deal for the Bills. And I think that was like $50 million of that was guaranteed, I believe. So that's kind of crazy for a soon-to-be 33-year-old defensive end. But I think that something, as Chiefs fans out there talking, and we all have our expectations this offseason and through free agency of what the Chiefs need to address. And I think there's a lot of chatter right now. We're on day 3 of the NFL free agency period. Technically this is day 1 of the new league year.
Correct.
But the tampering period and all that, the Chiefs have shown interest in multiple wide receivers, as we've talked about in the past. Juju Smith-Schuster is one of the guys. Allen Robinson is somebody they've been in talks with. Jarvis Landry is a guy that they like as well. And so far, nothing is happening. They did find a Tyrann Mathieu replacement of Justin Reed at safety. But I think that this is something right now, the fans are starting to panic because they're seeing all the other teams in the AFC West make moves and get better. We're seeing the Chargers really play aggressive here, getting J.C. Jackson, the cornerback, as well as making that trade for Khalil Mack. And then the Broncos going out as well and making lots of moves. And, the Raiders even just signed Chandler Jones today.
Yep.
And so while we're all just sitting back watching all these other teams get better, there is some fear from fans right now to think that we could be taking a step back because this AFC is going nuts. Everyone in the AFC is coming for the Chiefs right now, and we have a target on our backs because they're tired of seeing our asses win every year, or at least go to the championship game every single year. This is 4 years in a row the Chiefs have been in the AFC championship game. And so I think at this point, the Bills are pissed off. The Chargers just want to get in there and get a chance. Broncos were like, all right, we're tired of being the bottom feeders. And then, the Raiders are even just like, hey, we'll at least make an attempt here to try to come back. So, guys, my point is, I have a question for you. Are we concerned about the AFC West catching up to the Chiefs right now?
Go ahead, Jason.
I have a little bit of concern. And I would say my biggest concern is not necessarily the fact that the entire AFC West is just loaded up on pass rushers. While I do believe that that's very important, the biggest change right now in the West is the fact that Russell Wilson is on the Broncos. Because now all of a sudden, I think as a Chiefs fan, I used to view those games when we would go up against the Broncos. That's kind of a walkthrough. It's a cupcake game. We don't really care too much about it. It's not even really a trap game because we never took them seriously. So now all of a sudden you bring Russell Wilson into the AFC West, and it's kind of a good and a bad thing because I've always been a proponent of the Chiefs having a better division where we can be a little bit more battle tested.
Correct.
Where we don't have quite as many cupcake games, and where every game is a dogfight. And so while I still have that opinion, and I do like to see more competition in the AFC West, I also see the other side of it where, yes, they have definitely caught up to us, and they are going to be able to get to our quarterback, Patrick Mahomes. And I look at the other side, and I feel like, okay, now what are the Chiefs going to do? What are the Chiefs going to do? What are we going to do to be able to get to the opposing team's quarterbacks?
Yeah, I kind of think about that. I talked on the Settling the Kingdom show that I do now here on weekends, and I talked about how if the Chiefs are not getting better, then they're getting worse at this point.
Correct.
And so the Chiefs have to have some kind of counter to react to what's going on with the rest of the AFC West right now. Problem being, Chiefs currently have the least cap room in the entire NFL right now. And when I say least, I mean they're -10 in the hole at the moment. And so that's something to think about, and that's part of the reason why the Chiefs are not jumping on and paying giant money to guys like Christian Kirk and stuff like that, like the Jaguars have been doing. The Chiefs have to be very cerebral with their money right now and the moves that they're making to make this team better through free agency, because there are holes on this team right now for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But you can't fix all those through the draft, and so you got to be cerebral with finding the best deals you can get for each player. Like, for instance, Justin Reed, the signing there, he's only going to get paid $4.5 million this season against the cap. That's a hell of a steal. So that right there is just a great value pickup for the Chiefs, and they need that going forward throughout the rest of this offseason until they make a major move money-wise, to help the cap room spread out a little bit. And that means extending Tyreek Hill, getting that officially done with, because that's going to help open up the books a little bit more for the cap room too.
And they still got the option to restructure Patrick Mahomes' deal this year as well. So that has not been done, so that could free up some money. I mean, from a fan standpoint, seeing all the moves made within the AFC West, it does scare you, right? We all agree on that. It's a little scary seeing all that compared to what we got. But you guys got to remember this too. We got Andy Reid, and then we got our core still there on the offense, and we're going to have most of the core still there on the defense, and maybe an improvement. I think Veach is really looking at this draft instead of doing his trade backs he usually does to get a third, fifth round, get those steals and get an extra pick in that. I think he's actually looking to build some depth and maybe finding a starter or two like he did last year with this. So I understand the whole money, the big names. The big names are cool. Yeah, sure, let's get an A-Rob. It'd be great. Fabulous. But Marcus May just going out to the Saints. Safety, tore ACL, DUI. Just got paid 3-year, big money in the Saints. It's not what we're looking for. We got Justin Reed, like Mike said, but still, those kind of players that should be on prove-it deals aren't getting those prove-it deals. It's a crazy free agency period right now. I don't remember anything like as much activity has gone on around this in the past couple of years. And that kind of worries me from a Chiefs standpoint, but it's also the note-taking that all these AFC teams and the NFC teams are like, hey, we got to do something. We got to sign players, spend some money. Chiefs aren't like that. They're not as worried. Obviously, they got the things to do, but I think you're going to look at the draft. They're looking at the draft as more of a crutch than it probably should be, honestly. But I think they're looking to build some depth and finding a couple stars like last year.
Well, Tanner and Jason and I were talking off the air earlier today, as a matter of fact, about what the Chiefs are going to do to get that pass rush position up to par. And we feel like, honestly, they're kind of in a situation where they have no choice but to make a trade for somebody. And we just found out Daniel Hunter, the Vikings defensive end, is now available for trade, as well as a couple other guys out there. I mean, we all think like the idea of Josh Allen from the Jaguars potentially being a guy that the Chiefs target, but they're not going to find guys right now worthy of what you're going to have to give up at this point at defensive end for this team, because even Von Miller's getting paid a lot at 33, and the rest of the guys available, they're either, as I've talked about in the past, overaged or guys who never panned out in the first place. The one guy I'd give still credit, Jadeveon Clowney, is a guy who can probably get you 9 to 10 sacks this coming year, who will be available.
But here's the issue with that, right? We talk about trades all the time. You got to still pay the player. And a lot of them won't go to you. Like, they'll throw a fit and not play unless you have an extension as well. So you got to remember these guys as well. Like, Hunter isn't just going to go to the Chiefs without maybe an extension or maybe some kind of promise. But you still got to pay his money that he got, I think, a year ago he signed an extension, or 2 years ago. So you still got to pay that. It's just like signing a free agent just because you're trading players. So there's that issue with it too. Trades aren't just a solution because you can't sign a guy. You still got to pay the guy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's probably why Josh Allen's an attractive one, because he's still on the rookie contract, so he's not getting paid the big money yet. But the Chiefs are going to be. Well, this is the thing: if he comes into the Kansas City Chiefs and actually performs great, then we will pay him.
Yeah,
the Chiefs will happily pay that, because they'll be letting Frank Clark go anyway, so they can put that money over there.
Well, Frank Clark's not letting go. We just restructured him.
No, I know that, Tanner. I'm not very happy about it. I don't really want to talk about it.
I don't know if you're aware of that.
No,
I told you before even the playoffs started that Frank Clark was staying on the team. And he's staying on the team.
Yeah. Well, I'm not very happy about all that, because, as I've told you guys in the past, I don't care if you're making $20 million or you're making $20. The cap doesn't matter to me about what you're making. It's production. And so for me, it's like, if you're on the field and you're taking up space, but you're also being a lazy bum, then you're not helping the team. And I don't care what the money is at that point. And so that's my biggest problem with Frank Clark, is I just don't see him as a productive player at all for this team. And also, I don't think he's hungry. I don't see him as a guy who hustles and is hungry and wants to make plays. He's got guys like he's got 10.5 sacks his last 2 years as a Chief, and he doesn't really make plays often anyway. But guys, regardless, I don't want to get into it with him, with the whole thing of Frank Clark. But Jason, do you have any further thoughts on the situation right now?
No, I mean, I would just say with Frank Clark, none of us wanted him to be on the team right now. We all want him to be cut, but at the same time, if it is a situation where, okay, now we know they restructured him, now if you're Brett Veach, you've got to be looking at it and saying, okay, this guy, since we restructured him, he better be the worst. He better be the worst guy on my D-line. And I strongly believe that Brett Veach has something in mind here. He's going to potentially make a play prior to the draft and maybe make a big trade.
Nah, I don't
possibly
see it.
because
No way.
And if he's not
No
gonna
way.
if he's not gonna do it, then guess what, guys? I mean, then you look at the Rams and what they did. They said screw the draft picks, and so if he's not going to trade away draft picks to try to improve that D line, then what are we doing here?
That's not what the Chiefs have ever done.
Right.
Done. You're not do the flip, do the reconstruction and flip. You're
Well,
not
man,
going to do it.
Look, this is a different time period, guys.
It's not gonna
The problem with this
happen.
team
No way.
construction-wise is they're very top-heavy with the cap hits. And so, like, you see guys like Chris Jones at the top, Patrick Mahomes obviously at the top, and then there's, like, just this giant gap between the top 5 players and then the rest of the team. And, like, there's not enough guys in the middle there that, get paid, a nice sum, but, not something extravagant. And I think a lot of that comes through doing better with the draft as well, as far as having guys in there that, you don't need to overpay big time in free agency or whatever, but you can have through the draft that'll kind of build their way up. But I see it like you got all this up here and then all this down here, and it's just not equal at all across the board.
No,
I think we need more guys in the middle.
Again, this is all initial reaction due to the free agency signings of Chargers, the Raiders, and the Broncos recently, right? So it does put some Chiefs fans in a worry. I'm not as worried about like these guys are. Like, yeah, sure, big names, whatever. Guess what? I'm not worried about it right now.
Well, I'm not worried. And guys out there listening, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and send it over to the chat. We'd be happy to chat with you guys while we go here. But it's not that I'm worried, Tanner. We're literally 2.5 days into this free agency period, and there's still a lot of guys out there. Have we gotten the guys we wanted yet? Not really. But it doesn't mean it's not going to happen. Doesn't mean there's not a way to make it happen in some way. The Chiefs will sign a veteran wide receiver. I don't know who it's going to be or when it's going to happen, but it will happen. That's one of Patrick Mahomes' top requests this offseason.
It damn well better be Allen Robinson. If you're not going to do anything to fix your D-line, it damn well better be Allen Robinson, and you better fix wide receiver in the draft as well.
Yeah, I would tell you Robinson would be a great replacement for what Sammy Watkins brought because he was very much missed as a part of this offense this past season. I think that he just brings a good element to the team of blocking as well as just kind of a very you can rely on Sammy Watkins.
What about a replacement for Brian Pringle if he doesn't get signed?
Of course, that's important too. And I don't know who's going to sign Byron Pringle yet. I think his best fit, though, is with the Chiefs because he knows the system so well, and the way he's used here just kind of fits into his nature. As a kick returner, of course, he did that at K-State, and then as a special teamer, and then as a true wide receiver, he's really making his niche here, and he's got the best quarterback in the world throwing to him. If he goes to play for the Colts, for instance, it's the career is probably not going to go the way he wants.
Yeah, and you guys were talking about Allen Robinson, too, being a potential fit for the Chiefs. I'm thinking that guy's going to go probably where he's going to be offered a little bit more, maybe a little more security as well. I could see him definitely skipping out on the Chiefs just for the money's sake of it and the security. That guy could be a Packer for all we know, opposite sides of Devontae. Because Packers haven't made moves, but they've lost a lot of players, too.
Yeah, the Chiefs have also, I guess, had some interest in Marquez Valdes-Scantling. So that's another name to think or keep in mind. But they're just keeping their options open for veteran receivers right now on this team.
I do think they're I would say I think they're talking to people, but there's deals and there's certain security essentially for these players that they're not going to get with the Chiefs, and they know that, and then they move on.
Yep, I totally agree. Aside from all that, do you guys like what Brett Veach is doing at the moment? Being patient, sitting back, and letting things unfold, and then kind of, hopefully getting value pickups here in the meantime? Or should they have been more aggressive towards going and getting some of these guys like Zadarius Smith, who was just signed to, I think, the Ravens earlier today? That's a guy that the Chiefs would have loved to have at pass rusher. Is there? I mean, there's ways around the cap. We know that, but are we content right now with what Brett Veach is doing?
I'm okay with him being patient And I kind of agree with Tanner. I don't think that this is panic time for Chiefs fans. But at the same time, we've got to look at the end product. So let's see what happens before the draft. Let's see what happens in the draft. And then I can give you my full assessment. But I don't think this is panic time. And I'm okay with patience right now. But we got to look at the end product. And if we see the end product, whenever that happens, and I'm sitting and looking at this roster, and they haven't fixed pass rush. They haven't fixed wide receiver. That would tell me that the Chiefs have decided to punt on the next season. So you got to fix one or the other. Ideally, I would want them to fix both of those positions. But we got to be patient and just see what happens.
That seems pretty extreme, though, Jason. You think that the Chiefs are in a position right now where they're willing to punt on the next season, basically forfeit essentially the season, and be willing to accept defeat against the Chargers and Broncos? I'm just saying, that's what Jason just said.
This is not what it's about here. We're not going to sit there and lay down. There's no way.
I'm telling you, I'm speaking for the average Chiefs fan out there that is watching all of this go on, and the Chiefs aren't doing shit right now. They're all in panic mode right now, okay? And that's the first thing that's going to come to their minds is like, oh, okay, well, the Chiefs are just going to try to make their team better in the draft, and maybe they'll be better 2 to 3 years from now, but at least for the near future, they're just punting on next year.
Maybe you're talking
because
about
they're not
Chiefs
making
Twitter
a big splash.
Here,
they're not going to make a big splash in free agency. They're not going to make a big trade. It's just like, what are they doing right now? And there's a lot of uncertainty, and I guess that would be my biggest concern right now as a Chiefs fan. If you're just a guy sitting there, that is the uncertainty. We don't know what's going to happen. Whereas when I look at the Raiders and the Chargers and the Broncos, we know exactly what's going on right now. There is no uncertainty. You look at the Chiefs, there is all of the uncertainty. So there is a little bit of room for panic right now, even though I will be a little bit patient right now because this is not the end product.
Outside of Tyrann Mathieu, the last 3 years, who's our biggest big name free agency, whatever, offseason pickup that has not rookies, free agency pickups or trades or whatever that has produced outside of Tyrann?
I mean, Frank Clark won us a Super Bowl. You can make the case
Frank
for that.
Clark help us with the Super Bowl.
But that was a long time ago.
Putting that in.
That was a long time ago.
The 2019 defense was a complete makeover anyway.
Jerron Reed was all excitement, obviously. Right, Reed?
Well, sure, because we thought we could get some of that youthful Reed that we saw from early on in the Seattle days, and he came into the Chiefs and didn't do jack crap for about 6 weeks, and then finally got a tackle. We were all excited.
But that's the whole thing, right? That's the whole thing we're looking at is Chiefs aren't known to make this free agency splash with big names, aren't known to make, the moves right off the bat. They're the guys that are patient, the guys that are wait, and then they build the depth from there, right?
Yeah, we got a comment here from Dan Bo, one of our new followers. Thanks so much, Dan. And Jason, so to your point about some of the fans and some of them getting concerned and worried right now about the Chiefs, the state of the Chiefs, he's talking about to trade for DK Metcalf is what he's wanting the most. And he says, I think it is panic time because the AFC West is loading up on major talent and we have done nothing. And that's kind of the whole point of what we're talking about right now, is that the Chiefs are falling behind at the moment because if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. And we've seen the rest of this division now kind of put together a great roster, whereas the Chiefs have a lot of holes. They still have a hole at linebacker. They still have a hole at edge rush, and they still have a hole at cornerback, receiver, and then running back even. Darrell Williams is probably going to be gone. And there's a lot of things on this team that need to be worked on.
There's a lot of holes. We don't need to make a splash right away. Stay your patience, because not only are some of these signings happening, that are big names, but it's also costing some of those key depth guys jobs, and they're being in the free agency market, and you get them cheaper. The June 1st cutoff's coming up here. You can see a few players there after the draft. Like there's time. We got time. Do not panic.
I do agree with that, you guys. Do not panic. It's not time. Let's give it some more time. Give it a little patience, and I'm excited for the draft. Absolutely,
the draft is going to be phenomenal.
I'm always excited for the draft.
There could be moves there, too. Who knows?
I will say this, as far as the DK Metcalf proposal. I would be all in on making a trade for DK Metcalf, but we have to understand that there are two schools of thought here. We can do like the Rams. We can go all in and try to win right now, or we can build for the future and say, oh, okay, well, we've got Patrick Mahomes. Well, Patrick Mahomes is going to be here forever. So we don't necessarily need to win right now. And so that's kind of a debate that can be ongoing for as many years as Patrick Mahomes is playing. But, for me personally, I don't care about the future. I want to win right now, because if I get it one more Super Bowl on Patrick Mahomes' resume right now, I don't really care what happens 2 to 3 years from now. And that's a debate that we can have later on the show. But, yeah, sure, Patrick Mahomes is going to be around forever. So maybe we can win a Super Bowl, but I want to make a big splash right now.
And something we've talked about here, but Tanner and I, as far as for Dan, is that DK Metcalf is more than likely, if the Chiefs were to make a trade for him, he's going to be a one-year rental.
Correct.
And because of the big money he's going to want after being within this offense, within Patrick Mahomes as well, I mean, he's going to want a huge contract, probably bigger than whatever extension Tyreek's going to be getting.
I don't care. Von Miller was a one-year rental. He's gone. They won a fucking Super Bowl.
All right.
I don't really care about one-year rentals. I would be all in on a one-year rental.
So we did have Jason Hammond on Facebook here. He did mention Godwin just signed a 3-year deal with the Bucs. So, some of these guys are injured.
Yeah, I think it was 3 years, $60 million is what I just saw. Yeah.
And then he said, if what Grayson says is true, Chiefs are spoiled. We are.
Of course we're spoiled.
I hate to say it to you. And then he goes, how is having the most seasoned and veteran team in the AFC West considered unseasoned?
That's an interesting comment. Interesting verbiage there.
Interesting take on that one.
Because I guess the thing is at this point is that we're seeing some pieces fall off and we're not replacing them yet. And I think that's probably the most concerning thing at the moment right now.
Danbo, you said, I will keep seeing... Sorry, I guess I could click on it, huh?
Yeah, show it on the stream here.
I keep seeing Chiefs fans saying that we will be fine because we're getting wide receiver, but our defense will be awful. Our defense won't be awful here.
Hey, right now it's not looking pretty, Tanner.
It's not pretty in depth wise, but we're not really that much off of what we were last year. Granted, the start was bad, the ending was.
I mean, you got to remember too. Derek Nottie right now is a free agent. Who else is going to be interior with Chris Jones, and then the edge part, and then the corners we're losing. We lost Tre'Davious Ward.
We got to be patient through the draft. All right,
there's a lot of things to figure out.
Got to be patient
in a short
through the
period
draft
of time
guys.
On that defense. Screw the receiver thing. Like the defense itself is not probably going to be stacked at all.
I still don't agree on making a big splash right away. I say you wait it out. If you get a good deal with somebody that can help your team, add more key pieces than just one key player, because in the NFL, one person outside a quarterback does not win you games.
Here's the bottom line, guys. We need playmakers and we need difference makers. And I've been pounding this down you guys' throats for I don't know how many weeks. But guess what? It doesn't necessarily have to happen in free agency. It can happen via trade, or Brett Veach he might see a bunch of guys in the draft. He might be looking at those guys and saying, okay, this guy is a playmaker. This guy is a difference maker. And so we got to wait until the end, see what happens. But bottom line, you need a playmaker and you need some difference makers on this team.
And we're just talking about AFC West. We're not even talking about the AFC in general, where the Jaguars have made multiple depth moves. Granted, they're probably overpaying, but they're still making moves out there with Doug Peterson. The Steelers just signed Miles Jack to complete with that defense. Granted, we'll see what Mitch does at quarterback.
Hey, that might be a top 3 defense, though.
That defense is looking crazy. And then not only that, but the Jets are making splashes as well. They could be a sneaky team out of that division to be able to compete for maybe a wild card or possibly upset somebody that could cost them a playoff spot. So there's teams around here, not just in the AFC West, but the AFC, that are trying to make splashes that could cost the Chiefs or potentially one of your favorite teams as well in a playoff.
It's amazing how lopsided the NFL is right now with the AFC and NFC. It's like everyone's jumping ship to the AFC, and it's just a powerhouse conference now, whereas the NFC is just like, it's just a bunch of guys.
And then,
and the Bengals are improving the offensive line too. So think about that. I mean, if Joe Burrow gets more time with the Bengals, because that was obviously the biggest problem with that team is the offensive line.
Well, you're talking Joe Burrow, but I'm also talking Joey Mixon. If he gets a freaking line behind to run behind, that could be a little scary with a solid running game and Joe Burrow.
I always like how you call him Joey. Joey Mixon. Joey Mixon is your guy. Guys, all right. So we have a couple more things we want to get to, of course. We're going to talk about Deshaun Watson here in a minute. But first and foremost, you guys, it is St. Patty's Day starting, is it tomorrow? Yeah, tomorrow. Got to get your green on tomorrow.
That means I got to wear my green
and
KU shirt
you might even
for the
have
tournament. Oh, man.
You got to do what?
My green KU shirt.
Oh, that's right. You do have one of those things. Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody has to.
Well, I guess it's also good. It's gonna be a fun day because it's St. Patty's Day and it's the kickoff of the NCAA tournament. So that's always an exciting thing to see if potentially one of those bottom seeds can knock off a number one.
No, that's gonna be so much fun.
It doesn't happen often. I think it's only happened like once, but it's just happens every once in a
One
while.
seed
Right?
only lost once. Yes.
And that's my only basketball take for the day. All right. So, regardless, you guys. So I was thinking about this though. So St. Patty's Day, obviously, drinking is involved. I've heard stories about certain college towns having a big party and things like that. But what would be your favorite liquor of choice or hard drink of choice on St. Patty's Day?
Does it have to be hard?
Jason said he likes it hard all the time. So
Well, we know that.
I'll have what he's having.
That's what she said.
Oh, wow! Look, we are just awful.
I don't know how you guys like to take it, but whatever. For St. Patty's Day, guys, you gotta it's longevity, right? Longevity. You have to last the entire day. You can't last the entire day with IPAs and hard scotch and liquor the entire time. Go get some green dye, baby. Pour yourself a nice bush.
But I do feel like
Right.
there are some people out there, they don't have any intentions of lasting the whole day. And so my advice to them would be, you want to start out with imperial stouts. Let's maybe just say hypothetically a prairie bomb. And you have a couple of prairie bombs, then you're going to move on to a Godfather, which is half scotch and half amaretto. If you don't like that, you can always go with the old fashioned. But all I know is like liquor before beer, you're in the clear. But I'm going to go beer before liquor, never been sicker. That would be my first choice on St. Patty's Day.
So you would go beer before liquor?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I would
So
do
you're
it.
telling me you want to live life like a college kid and just get wild? And you
Might
would
as
hammer.
well. You don't need to go all day long,
Guys,
dude.
that's
Just
true.
get it over with.
Danbo might be joining you, Jason, because he said every single defensive free agent he was hoping for is gone, and most of them are in the AFC.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the thing. Most of those free agents that
That's
we
true.
were looking at are gone at this point. AC has said Irish breakfast shot would be his drink of choice on St. Patty's Day. So yeah, it's always good.
I
What
can
about the
roll with that.
Irish car bomb? That's always a popular one, guys. What about this, Jason? So you like prairie bombs so much. What about you do a prairie bomb Irish car bomb? Now that would be dangerous as hell because you're looking at like dropping in the Kahlua into a prairie bomb, which is 13% alcohol instead of a Guinness, which is like 4, and that'd be wild.
That just goes back to Tanner's point. He's sitting there trying to go all day long. I don't need to go all day long. Just give me the Irish carn bomb and the prairie bombs for like 4 or 5 hours,
So-
and that's game over.
So here in Kansas, guys, up in Manhattan, Fake Patty's Day is a huge thing as well.
Yeah.
Green beer and Irish car bombs at O'Malley's, like Jason just said here on Facebook chat. Yeah, man, go all day there. But Fake Patty's is huge up there, and I've always wanted to attend, and I never have. So that'll be one day.
I think we're getting too old
I'm
to
gonna say
attend
one
that.
day.
Are we getting too old to
We
attend?
can still
St.
go
Patty's
there.
Day?
There's a bunch of old guys up there, I'm sure.
Okay, I wasn't sure if there was like an age limit.
They
on
might
that.
even be older than Jason, for all we know.
Okay, I guess it's how you feel though, not so much what your actual age is, right, Tanner?
You just need to feel young for one day, dude.
Yeah, just don't Ralph like you normally do after a few beers. So we'll save that story for a different day.
we're actually not that old. Like I'm of the same age as TB44, and he can still guzzle a beer faster than anyone else in the world. So
That's a good point. TB, you said
TB12,
44?
TB4. No, now he's TB45. He's TB45 now, dude. He's older now.
That's true.
He might not be chugging beers anymore for a while.
Well, let's talk about a guy who throws the ball that's also a lot younger.
My. Hey, real
What?
quick here. Buccaneers franchise player Chris Godwin reached agreement on a 3-year,
Tanner,
$60 million deal.
Have you been sleeping the last 5
$40
minutes?
million guaranteed?
Have you been sleeping the last
It's
5 minutes?
28
No.
minutes ago, dude.
He just came
No.
out of a cave.
This was literally just talked about from me and from Hammett, who had left a comment
But
here
I didn't
on.
see the amounts or anything.
I just told you 3 years, 60 million.
He was
Oh, yeah.
living in a cave
Oh
for
my
2
God.
hours. Give him a break, okay? He was living in a cave.
Relax.
Good
I just got
Lord.
done with the big NCAA show, all right?
All right. Well, anyways, you guys, let's talk about a little Deshawn Watson at the moment and what we think about where that could end up going. Because, guys, I'm excited to see him back on the field just for the sake of, like, hey, he's a great talent and just fun to watch, right? So, all things aside, there's a lot of teams interested in him, and the 49ers are interested. The Falcons seem to actually be somewhat close to making the deal, but he's apparently very torn at the moment. about where to go, where he wants to end up. Panthers have interest. The Saints have interest. If you're Deshaun Watson and you're living in his head and you want to go to a team that's going to be successful as well as you're going to put up numbers with because you still want to have more contracts after this one, what would be your team of choice out of the current listed teams I just named off?
I've got a couple of teams that I want to point out here, but I do want to touch on the criminal charges here, first of all, because let's just think logically here, right? If you have 22 people come out against you at the same time, the odds are all of those events did not happen all at the same time. So I feel like it's kind of like one person came out and then everybody else wanted to pile on, and maybe a couple of those things never really happened. But that's neither here nor there. The fact of the matter is that this guy will be playing in the NFL again. And you guys know my thoughts on this. I want to load up in the AFC, right? But I do think that the Atlanta Falcons would be a great fit for him.
Why?
Well, for one thing,
Why?
I don't want to see Tom Brady just walk through that division with no competition. So I would love to see Deshaun Watson go to the Falcons, who are in play for him per sources, and that would be a good fit on
Who's
the
he going to
NFC
throw
side.
to? Kyle Pitts all day?
Well, at least it would make it interesting
not a
for
lot of
Tom
time.
Brady.
Look,
it would make it
risk,
interesting.
It's basically going from Houston to Houston.
Right.
I have a question, though.
And that's not good.
Go ahead, Mike.
I have a question for you guys. So obviously the 49ers have some kind of interest. That's why they've talked to him. Would you trade, if you were the 49ers GM, would you trade straight up Trey Lance for Deshaun Watson plus maybe even 2 first-round picks?
Wait. You get 2 first-round picks and Deshaun?
No, the other way around. So Trey Lance, 2 first-round picks, and you get Deshaun Watson.
Oh,
in return.
yeah, dude. All day.
You would do that? So you would
All
trade your perceived quarterback of the future, basically, to get Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, hey, I made a mistake. Here's Trey Lance, and here's 2 first-round picks to make up for it. And I'll go ahead and take that Deshaun Watson, his guaranteed years, and the contract.
I
You're
would
looking
do
for
the
guaranteed
deal.
commodity.
I would do the deal, but my fear would be that Houston would also want George Kittle thrown into that deal as well.
Oh, you
that'd
think
be
it's
rough.
like a Russell Wilson type of trade?
Yeah.
And Dan, by the way, had a comment. Is there anyone on our team you would trade for a first round this year on our current team
On our current
that
team.
we would trade for? I don't know what, like, as far as for a first this year to get an extra first round pick. I think is what he's meaning.
Yeah.
I don't think that there is anyone on this team currently that we could really expend and get rid of that would also benefit us to get a pick out of at the moment, because we need guys like Travis Kelce. We need guys like Tyreek Hill on this team.
Obviously, Patrick Mahomes doesn't
And then
know.
Chris
Creed, we
Jones
need-
would be another guy that would warrant a first round pick, but like we also need to have him. Like none of those guys are expendable would be the only problem I'd have.
Yeah, I wouldn't trade anybody.
So, yeah.
It's not worth it.
Deshaun Watson, though, to me makes a lot of sense with the 49ers because he's got a lot of talent to work with if he goes to that team. Good running game, of course, and it's followed by some good receivers. Deebo Samuel is one of my favorite and most versatile players in the entire game. And if I'm the 49ers, I consider that offer I just made here, hypothetically to you guys on the show.
Yeah, I would
about
do that.
Trey
I would do
Lance.
that deal if I was the 49ers. But my pipe dream that I'll say right on the air right now, it would be to bring him over to the AFC. I want Deshaun Watson on the Steelers, and I
You
understand
want to load up the AFC some more.
Oh my gosh!
Look, it's
you
the
would think
perfect fit. It is the perfect fit.
it's a great fit, but
Tomlin and Deshaun Watson together would be.
And if you're
best ever.
Juju Smith-Schuster, that's why you're waiting to sign with a new team. You're like, wait a minute, the Steelers get
It's
Deshaun
a
Watson. I'll go back
perfect
to
fit.
He's
that.
waiting for more money.
and,
Mike.
and everybody in the world knows it's a perfect fit. But my gosh, why is everybody getting such a hard on for the Steelers having Mitchell Trubisky right now in the AFC? Do we really think that he's going to be a difference maker in the AFC? So my gosh, like if anybody in the Steelers organization is listening to us right now, my gosh. I love Mitch Biscuit as a backup quarterback. More power to you. Have him on that damn roster.
And his contract is pretty cheap. The one they just signed him to, only 2 years, $14 million.
I'm giving away the farm if I'm the Steelers. I'm giving away the farm because if you get Deshaun Watson on the Steelers, guess what? I don't really care about the Chiefs. I don't care about any of those other teams. I'm basically at the top of the AFC right now, and I've got a difference maker on my roster. And I've got one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
Okay, let me throw this.
What are you laughing about, Tanner?
Oh, the Mitch thing. I just think it's funny.
Mr. Biscuit?
He sucks, but he's a good backup
does.
quarterback.
Yeah, of course.
He's a good backup quarterback, but he
he's
sucks.
a good backup.
Play for Chicago.
Nobody in their
Backed
right
up Josh
mind.
Allen for 1 year.
Wait,
and now
Tanner,
all of a sudden we want him.
Before you go, Tanner, nobody in their right mind thinks that he is a starting quarterback in the NFL. Seriously, nobody in their right mind. And we all know that. Everybody knows
It's
it.
that Steelers GM trying to screw him over before he leaves. So he's out after the draft, so that's why. Oh, my Lord. Anyway, this is funny. Deshaun Watson. I'd love to see him in Pittsburgh. I think that would be probably the best fit, but it's not going to happen. I could see Carolina, like Danbo said here, as I've had up there. Carolina or Atlanta because it represents that area. That's fine. I think
those would be his two worst options, personally, just
Correct.
because of the talent level of both of those teams. Carolina's better than Atlanta, but it still wouldn't be a great situation, I don't think. But we did hear in the trade news that Christian McCaffrey will not be traded to get and acquire Deshaun Watson.
Oh, did they actually say that now?
So yeah, they are not willing to trade Christian McCaffrey.
Or they were, but yeah, that's
Well,
good.
that's stupid. That's stupid because that's one of their best assets that they give away. And oh, by the way, he's injury prone, so why not get rid of him?
So
And he's a running back, guys,
So
which is also expendable.
we just talked about this here, right? But what about this whole Baker Mayfield, Deshaun Watson situation possibly going down in the Browns? Baker just posted on his Instagram or Twitter or whatever it was. I saw it on Twitter. Basically, a thank you to Cleveland. You know, he didn't want to make this a weird Aaron Rodgers clouded kind of post, but essentially was like something might go down. But I think there would be more of a return for both teams in that case between a Cleveland and a Houston trade, or maybe we're looking at a three-way trade somehow
It's
with
not
Matty
gonna
Ice.
happen.
I don't
It's not
love the
gonna
idea
happen.
that what Baker Mayfield was doing on social media was a little butthurt. He's a little butthurt, knowing the fact that Browns have interest in Deshaun Watson. He's thinking to himself, "I'm doing the best I can, basically, and I'm not good enough," which is true. But his ego is a little hurt, basically, by the fact that they're interested in Deshaun Watson. That's all that is.
Who was the other teams that you listed?
Oh, we talked about all it is: Panthers, Falcons,
Saints.
Now the Saints will be a good fit.
Saints I
because
would
of
love.
the defense. They still have a good defense.
But you got Michael Thomas coming back too, after being off a whole entire year.
I can tell
That
you
would
this.
fit well.
If you give Deshaun Watson the choice, he is not going to Cleveland. That's not going to happen.
No, I don't think he wants it.
Heck no. But here's the thing: he's got a lot. As we talked about, he's torn right now about where to go because he says every one of them he's visited has treated him very, very well. And so it's hard at that point. You have all these guys pulling at you to go come to their franchise, and it's like, man, I like at least half of these teams. And so now it's like, God, this decision is tough because now you're looking at his next 5, 6, 7 years in the NFL playing for the team that picks him right now.
I mean, if I was an NFL team and I brought him in, I'm going to treat him really well.
Of course.
Give him the freaking world.
Yeah, of course.
Real quick here, Danbo, once again with another great question. Just asking, would you trade straight up Justin Herbert for Josh Allen?
I think this is an interesting question, mainly because they're pretty similar as far as the skill set goes, quarterback-wise. If I had to pick one or the other, I would probably lean more towards Josh Allen right now, just because he has had the experience of getting to the playoffs and playing in big-time games. And the reason they lost to the Chiefs in the playoffs was not because of Josh Allen. I can tell you that. And I like Justin Herbert a lot too. They're 1A, 1B for me as far as in this category because to me these are the top 5 quarterbacks in the league. Is Mahomes, Rodgers, Herbert, and Josh Allen and Brady.
Son of a...
Yeah, I would probably take Josh Allen as well, just because of his ability in the running game. Justin Herbert, more of a traditional style passer, which I love that. I mean, he's going to be an elite quarterback in this league, but it's kind of I agree with you, Mike. 1A, 1B. I would slightly give the edge to Josh Allen.
Yeah, I think we all feel the same way on that.
I would actually go Herbert, by the way.
You go Herbert?
Yeah,
Of course you would, Tanner. Of course you would.
By the way, Tyrann Mathieu, we got a comment here from Jameson saying Matthew has now been signed to the Washington Commanders. That's not the team I expected him to go to.
I'm working on confirmation on that.
Okay. Well,
So-
if
that's true, that's big money, and
sure. 3 year, $49 million. yeah, the Chiefs were never going to pay that, and the Chiefs never made an offer to Tyrann Mathieu, which I don't really blame them for that either. It's their choice, and they got a really, really good deal on Justin Reed. So I think I'm still pretty content with how all this ended up. I'll be curious if Mathieu has anything to say outwardly in social media about Kansas City after he is signed and sealed and the whole thing is done with.
By the way, I just got to point this out real quick. I will never, and for the rest of my life, refer to them as the Washington Commanders.
You told us that last week.
That's perfectly fine. But if Tyrann Mathieu is going to the football team, more power to him. I'm just going to call him the football team from here on out.
All right, nothing official yet. So once we get the official here, we'll go from there. But that'd be nuts.
And no, Dan, we are not trading Mahomes for anything, so we're going to go ahead and not even talk about that.
I don't know about that. You could get a pretty big haul. You could get 12. You could get 45 first-round picks, right? Couldn't you? He's got a lot of value.
Can I get 32 all in 1 year? Maybe then I consider it. So, otherwise, you guys. All right, so we got some NBA talk here coming up in a second. But Tom Brady is back. Jason, I know you wanted to make a couple comments about that. We all knew it was going to happen. We told Tanner for weeks.
Retire already.
If you guys saw our text group where we give each other shit all day, you would see I was harassing Tanner about knowing Tom Brady was not retiring. You guys, it was never going to happen, and it was all a lie from the get-go. He was pulling a Favre. And so, anyways, Brady's back. So go ahead, Jason.
No, I just wanted to say that we all knew about this for weeks, and there's a lot of different reasons why we knew about it. But for me, going back to something that Tom Brady said quite a few years ago was the fact that, he didn't want to just have 7 rings in the NFL. Like, his role model was Michael Jordan. And so the one thing that I looked at is so he's got more rings than Michael Jordan, but what's the only thing that he didn't do that Jordan did? Come back from retirement. And so Michael Jordan had his quote-unquote second coming because Michael Jordan, we think of him as a god. But Tom Brady was never thought of as being a god. He was just the GOAT. He was the best player in the history of the NFL. So that was the one thing left that Tom Brady wanted to accomplish to have on his resume, which was to be thought of as a god. And so this is what he did. He retired for, 6 weeks, 40 days, whatever you want to call it. Now this is his second coming. So let's see what he does with that. But by the way,
he didn't take off time to go play baseball.
The bottom line, right? Correct. The bottom line is that
what
the sports buffoons.
Are you guys talking about?
If you guys were betting on this, you should have rode with the sports buffoons all along because we gave you guys fair warning about this weeks ago.
Talking about? Yeah.
The whole retirement was a joke.
These are two different people.
We knew he was going to play, dude.
Comparing him to Jordan right now, as far as the retirement thing, is silly. So I have no comment towards you about that. But we did know he was going to come back from retirement. And I will say, Tom Brady is the best of all time of all sports, and I'll live with that. Over Jordan, yes. But anyways, Tanner, any thoughts at all? Or is that just Jason's discussion with himself?
Why are you comparing some people to Jordan?
Tanner, why don't you just move on to the NBA since we're talking about Jordan?
Let's answer Dan real quick, and then we'll go to the NBA, guys. So, anyways, Dan was asking about trading Mahomes for either Josh Allen or Justin Herbert, and the answer to me, anyway, is no. I'm totally happy with Mahomes, and I would never do a deal where Mahomes is traded at all, really.
I think Tanner would rather have Justin Herbert than Mahomes, wouldn't you, Tanner?
No.
That's where you're going in that last argument.
No, I said I'd rather have him than Josh Allen.
And we're fine with Tyrann leaving as well, so I think we're with you there as far as that goes, Dan. So, guys, the NBA obviously is still rolling on. We're not to the playoffs quite yet. I wish we would just fast forward straight up to the playoff rounds. And, guys, my team is still number one, the best team in the damn league. Winning again. Actually, they just won. The Suns, Phoenix Suns just won once again without CP3 again. And so we were watching the Warriors. The Warriors had the return once again, right, Jason? The return of who?
The Warriors had the return of Draymond Green.
Right.
Huge.
So with that being said, we're going to have a little discussion right now between what we think about the Suns versus the Warriors and who is truly the better team at the moment, despite the records. So, Jason, go ahead and submit your case.
Yeah, I would like to say that, the Eastern Conference is a hot mess right now. And as much as we all want to say, we can predict who's going to come out of the East, I mean, it's pretty even. You can say the Sixers, Bucks, Nets, whoever you want. It's kind of a hot mess right now. But what we wanted to do was go into a deep dive here on the Western Conference because, I think a lot of people would like to throw out the Memphis Grizzlies and the Utah Jazz, and that's great. Those are great teams. But my case here is that the fact that it's not a hot mess in the West. We know who the two best teams are. The Suns are the number 1 seed. The Warriors are the number 3 seed. And so I want to know who you guys out there think will come out of the West. Who do you think the best team in the West is right now? Because I think the consensus right now is that it's the Suns. And we all know that the Suns are a great team, a great regular season team. They got the best record in the league right now. But when I look at the Suns, I look at CP3, who has been out for a while with a fractured thumb on his shooting hand, was averaging 15, 5, and 10 before he got injured. He is due back sometime in April, so hopefully before the playoffs get kicked off. But that was his timetable, was 6 to 8 weeks after the All-Star break. But when I look at the roster of the Suns, you look at Cam Johnson, who's missed the last 7 games due to a quad injury. But you put Cam Johnson and CP3 back on that roster, they're going to be very tough to deal with. You got DeAndre Ayton averaging 17 and 10. Obviously, we know what Devin Booker brings to the table. He's actually been averaging 26, 4, and 8 assists per game since CP3 has been out. So the Phoenix Suns seem like a buzzsaw to me right now, and they should be the favorite. And I know, Mike, what you think about the Suns, but I just want to get a discussion going on here about Suns versus Warriors because those are the two best teams in the league. And so I want you guys to make your case to me why you think the Suns are better or why you think the Warriors are better, and give me your reasons for that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think a lot of it just comes down to some of that team chemistry and not needing to have all of your stars to be the best team in the league. And CP3 has been known to be injury-prone regardless of what's gone on the past month, obviously. And Cam Johnson's obviously been out. This team has still won 7 of their last 10 games, whereas the Warriors are 5-5 in their last 10, despite a 4-game win streak. And so this is just, I think it's a team that is built around chemistry and that they've stayed structurally together for what feels like the last 3 years. And so I think that this was the team during the what would we call it during the COVID time, Tanner? We call it the what was it?
The bubble.
The bubble. The bubble time.
The bubble.
The Suns were the best teams in the bubble, right? And then last year the Suns ended up making it to the finals, and it was against Milwaukee. But now here we are again. Suns have the best record in the entire league, and my favorite stat that I use all the time for baseball is point differential. And point differential to me tells me how well you dominate other teams. You don't just beat other teams, you dominate other teams. And the Suns have the best point differential in the entire game right now with an 8.2 point differential rate, whereas the Warriors are 6.6. And so I like the Warriors. I think they have a good defense, of course, and I like Draymond Green. But I just think that you're looking at a Suns team that doesn't even need Chris Paul to be a finals contender. That's cool to add him to the mix, but Devin Booker is a straight-up baller. And the guy can lead a team. He's just a great leader. He's driven, and I think that's something that's overlooked a lot of times is the mental makeup, and he has all those things. So for me, I like the Suns a lot better right now.
Tanner?
It's a little weird one, but Golden State, I feel in the end will be better. But the Suns right now, you can't doubt them. You can't doubt them. You have 14 losses. You have 4 losses in the last 20. You don't have Chris Paul. Didn't have Devin Booker at times. No Cam Johnson. You're missing at least 3 to 4 main guys during this stretch.
You win anyway.
And you're winning or can at least competing into these games each time. Golden State was not doing that without Draymond. Obviously, Wiseman, I think hopefully we get a return here shortly for him. But, I mean, they were just missing one key guy with Draymond. The Suns missing 3 key guys. And they're still out there dominating teams. They're winning games. If they are losing, they're not losing more than by 10. and that's one game they lost by 10. This is not a team to put to doubt. Period. This is not a team to doubt. Okay, this Phoenix team is for real. When they get back fully healthy, as long as that bench, that depth, can continue to produce like they are now, it's going to be trouble. It's going to be trouble for Golden State. It's going to be trouble for any team in their way. I'm going Phoenix as the best team in basketball right now.
I'm going to say it every week, guys. The Phoenix Suns are the 2015 Kansas City Royals. It's the same damn thing. They're going back. They're going to run it back, but they're going to win it this time. They're going to finish the job, and that's what the Royals had to do back when it was their time. So
Tanner, before I give you my take on the Warriors, we all agree that the Suns are the best team right now. But I want your prediction as to who is going to win that series, because nobody doubts that that's going to be the Western Conference Finals. So if you had to bet on it right now, who is going to win that 7-game series?
I'd say Golden State, just for the fact that when you get in the playoffs, Curry ball's different, Draymond ball's different, and you know that Klay Thompson's going to show up too. So just for the fact that those three are on the team, and as long as they're healthy, I'm going Golden State.
Mike, you're going with the Suns, I would assume?
Yeah, and that's my favorite team. But regardless, I think that they have a lot of reasonings for me to back them in the first place. So this isn't some kind of thing where it's like the Warriors are just going to show up randomly in the playoffs. The Suns are very legitimate, and that's a team that won't back down from anybody. So they will fight no matter what. So it could go 7 games without a doubt. But I would never bet against the Suns in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I would add to that, I think the Suns' biggest advantage is their youth. And so that's how I kind of look at this series. Like we said, hopefully it happens in the Western Conference Finals. I look at this as youth versus experience. And the Suns' youth is really, really good and really, really athletic. And I think it would be probably a 6 or 7 game series. If I had to make my pick right now, I would take the Warriors. Now, people are going to look at the standings and say, well, the Warriors are 8 games back right now at first. Well, the reason why they're 8 games back is because Draymond is not just a guy that came back from injury. He is a guy who is a playmaker. He doesn't average a triple-double or anything like that, but he does get a lot of assists. He runs the offense, and when he's been out forever. So when you bring a guy like Draymond Green back, this is what happens. So Steph Curry put up 47, 6, and 6 on his birthday. And the reason why that happened was because Draymond Green came back. He was orchestrating the offense. Steph Curry didn't have that on his plate, so he was able to run off screens, play a little bit more at the 2, make more easy shots. Now, granted, that game when Steph put up 47, that was against the Washington Wizards, led by Kyle Kuzma, but that was neither here nor there. My point is that Draymond Green is a difference maker. He runs the show, and he runs the offense. He's an amazing defender, and when I look at the entire roster, Jordan Poole, he can get you 20 points on any given night. Andrew Wiggins can get you 15 to 20 points on any given night. Klay Thompson, we already know. If he's 100%, he's going to give you 25, 30 points whenever you want. And so when I look at this matchup, if it happens in the Western Conference Finals, I'm looking at firepower here. And if everybody on both teams, including CP3 on the Suns, if everybody's firing on all cylinders, the Warriors just have more weapons, in my opinion, and they have more experience. Not to mention the fact that James Wiseman has just recently been recalled from the G League. Now, he's not going to be playing in the next couple of games, but he's going to be on the team, and he's a double-double guy. He's a younger guy to match up with the youth that the Phoenix Suns are going to put out there. And so he was averaging, I think, 17 and 10 before he got injured. But the bottom line here for me is Draymond. He's a playmaker. And so I would take the Warriors. I do think it would be a close game. I love the Phoenix Suns, but I would take the Warriors in a very close series if I had to make my pick right now.
Yeah.
All right, then, you guys. Well, any final thoughts before we wrap it up here? By the way, thank you guys so much for joining in, and like and subscribe. It helps us out a lot. So Keep in mind, we got Settling the Kingdom here coming up once again this weekend. I'll be giving more of my thoughts as free agency continues to roll on, as well as I have a little segment. I'm going to talk about some draft prospects. Here we go as we get closer into the NFL draft coming up.
And don't forget, we'll be appearing on Let's Talk Sports, our partnership with them. We'll be starting to appear that every Saturday, I believe, starting the beginning of April. So you'll see us there, at least one of us. So on that part. And then I have not been able to verify the Tyron news.
Yeah.
So I'm not holding my breath yet on that. There's nothing happening on that. So just wanted to throw that out
maybe
there.
Jameson just has some insiders.
Oh, hey,
you know?
Chiefs got the right tackle.
Right, Andrew Wiley.
Andrew Wiley signs, guys.
You know, there was a time a few years ago I'd been really mad about that, but like last year he played really well, so I was like, you know what, Andrew Wiley like doesn't suck anymore.
For a mil,
It's amazing,
pretty much.
So yeah,
Take it.
2.5 mil. But yeah, I'm cool with that. Of course, it keeps the depth in line. But you know, just I like Wiley these days. The guy's matured a lot and become a good player. Really.
That's right.
I'll take it. Give me a difference maker.
All right, guys. Well, hey, comment, like, follow, of course, subscribe. Check out our NCAA show that was before this episode as well. Enjoy the tournament. Happy St. Patty's Day.
Get drunk,
Rock Chalk Jayhawk. We're out.
and I'll see y'all on the next one.
See you guys.